Hello, American Dream Makers. This is Zina Krogodal, your host today, and thank you for joining us here on American Dream Makers. I am having a beautiful morning, and I have a beautiful guest coming on, and I just love this lady. Since I met her, she has been full of energy and she just has such a way about her that is just so contagious and infectious. So Joanne Newduck, she is the CEO and podcast host for Fabulous at 50, an advocate for women's health and transformation. She is a registered nurse, sound wellness, and belief repatterning practitioner, certified and metabolic balance coach, energy worker, and passionate cheerleader for women in midlife through her work with FabulousHealth. She empowers women and men to make positive changes in their health, well-being, and overall happiness. And if you are on here today, please be sure to share this out. We don't want to keep it to ourselves because she's got some great information. And if you're watching this on the replay, make sure you share this out too. So without further ado, here is Joanne. Hi, Joanne.
Hello. Thanks so much for having me on today, Zina. It's
Well,
wonderful to be here.
Thank you so much for being here. I know you have so much going on and absolutely busy. So we're so glad that you were able to take some time out and be with us today. Joanne, so you get to reside in the beautiful Canada.
I do. It's very much autumn here, as I know many beautiful spots in the States as well, has all the lovely colors turning at this time. But being a little bit further west and north, I know that some of the east and my friends that live in the east, the beautiful reds won't come out until later in October, but all the trees right here right now are vibrant yellow. It's just absolutely gorgeous. Yeah.
I bet. Very picturesque.
A little bit earlier. We get winter a little earlier.
Well, that's fun. And so you grew up in this area, right? Have you been in
I grew up further east. I grew up in Ontario.
Okay.
And in high school, I had the opportunity to come west and see the Rocky Mountains and visit like Banff and Canmore and all of those gorgeous areas. And I absolutely fell in love. So shortly after finishing high school, I moved out west. My sister was out here at the time. And I ended up staying and doing my university and schooling here and pretty much setting up home here. So I absolutely love it.
Wow, that's awesome. So you're more north.
We're just kind of due north of Montana is the best way to describe where we are, right? Okay. So we snug up to the Rocky Mountains. So literally from this edge of town, from my second floor, I can see the mountains in the distance. So that's kind of our playground. We drive out to the mountains, go kayaking, go hiking, go skiing. I don't ski so much anymore, but yeah, doing that. I love being in the outdoors a lot.
That's awesome. Well, that sounds like a lot of fun. And I personally really like winter. I live in a place in Arizona that we do get 4 seasons. And sometimes I wish that winter was a little longer, but I'm kind of the exception to the rule because most people who live here in Arizona don't really want winter that long. But I always think it's very beautiful.
Now, winter to you, is it cool or do you actually get snow?
We actually do get snow. Okay. Not as much as you guys, but we do actually get snow. And the nice thing is that it does usually within a couple days, it's pretty much melted. And sometimes it doesn't even look like,
that's not us.
So it's generally, most of the time it's pretty mild, but once in a while we will have a winter that really looks like a real winter. So that's fun. But yeah, that's so great, Joanne. So you are an RN. And so you went to school. Did you go to school in Ontario then?
No, I went to school here in Calgary. So as I said, when I came out, I ended up falling in love here and did my registered nursing program here and worked as a nurse. I've worked mostly in oncology most of my career. Took a window of time off to raise my children, and I consider that a real privilege. And then I kind of got in my late 40s and went, okay, what am I doing now? And I sort of kicked my middle-aged brain and tushy into gear and went back to university and did a lot of training and started really exploring other areas? What can complement? What could expand my skills as a nurse? So I started off with doing some life coaching, and that I felt sort of really enriched my practice. And then, I can share a little bit more about sort of how did I end up becoming more of an entrepreneur and running this women's organization. It's a bit of a journey.
Yeah, definitely want to hear about that because I think a lot of people, will kind of start out with a great career and
Mhm.
and then think, yeah, what can I do to take it to the next level? So yes, absolutely. Please tell us.
Yeah. Well, I fall into this category of a lot of women that I know where we have one career through our life, and then we get around the age of 50. It's kind of magical where we reevaluate our life and we look at, are we doing what really fills our heart up? And I hope that everybody that's listening does that at some point in time. That I'm not saying take every hobby and make it into a business. That doesn't always work. But is the work you're doing fulfilling? Is there something else you can bring to the world? And so I actually really more, I had an opportunity to step into the role of community director for Fabulous at 50 for my city. And so I was still working as a nurse, and then I started running monthly events for women. And with the premise that women in midlife have so much to give to each other and share with the world, but often this population is overlooked or underutilized or underrecognized for the wisdom that we can bring. And so we started doing sort of social events, but it had a bit of a swing, also with personal development in a way. You were creating a community. And then things grew from there. And so if we fast forward several years, it has expanded, and we have our newsletter that anyone can sign up for and get their lovely little Make Mine Fabulous 21 Ways to Energize Your Life. We have the blog, and we have a podcast, and we have an online membership. And so there's many, many facets of what we're doing to really get out there. And our overall theme these days is changing the aging narrative.
Wow, that is amazing. And I'm so glad to hear that you're out there doing that because you are right. Because I am 49, so
Mhm.
getting ready to
Getting
hit that
close,
50.
getting close.
And it's true because you do start to really reevaluate your life. It's a time where my children are grown, so they're now young adults. And
Mhm,
so looking at, okay, so what else? And I've been a dental hygienist for 27 years.
mhm.
And yeah, it's definitely a mile marker. And I suppose this is where they talk about the midlife crisis kind of occurs between, 40 and 50, I guess is
I
what
like
it is.
to call it more of a midlife, like, metamorphosis or something. It doesn't have to be a crisis. It's more of an evolution.
Yeah.
What I find is so fun, when I interview women on my podcast, I often ask, "What shifted for you at 50?" Or "What do you imagine?" Not necessarily the number 50, but as you got into what I call midlife, um, what shifted? And one of the most common things is that women go, well, the filter fell off for one thing. They stop, it's not that they don't care, but they stop worrying. When they say they stop caring, they stop worrying about what other people are saying. They stop trying to do everything because that's what's expected of them. And they started showing their authentic self a lot more. And many, like myself, often go down a different path. I have so many friends that came out of the corporate world and went, I'm done with that. And this is what really makes me sing. And then they take all of their incredible experience of maybe being in the corporate world, and they have super successful businesses. I have one friend that she's now helping people in fashion and how do they raid their closet and really choose the colors that work, and and how to wear. And then, I have other ones that, again, at one gal, she became a Reiki master and now she just works in the health and wellness field. So there's just so much. I just think it's a great time when we have lots of energy and wisdom. Look at what you love, what do you want to share with the world, and maybe make that your business.
Wow, great. That's great. I'm so glad you shared that as well, 'cause that's beautiful. And You're right. It doesn't have to be a crisis, but I guess that's what it's been known as because that's
Yeah.
where I suppose people start panicking like, "Oh my gosh, here I am." It arrives so fast. I think that's what it is. It catches you by surprise because let's face it, when we start launching from our parents' home, it's somewhere in our early 20s probably,
Hmm.
we think life went by kind of slow, so we've got all this time in the world to and then next thing you know, you're 30, and then, oh my gosh, now you're 40, and then, whoa, how did I get to 50 so fast?
It's true. It's true. And then in a blink of an eye, you're 60 and you just, but my philosophy on that is stop worrying about what's coming up next or what age. Just keep living as if you're ageless. I had a grandfather that lived to 99 and a half years old. And I remember him, it was probably in his 80s at the time. And he was joking around. He goes, I look in the mirror and I go, who's that old man looking back at me? And he goes, I don't feel like that inside. And so stop. I think we need to stop assigning how should I feel? How should I be? What should I be doing at a given age? And really more just like live a little more authentically with what brings you joy. If you still love being silly, or if you love going for walks, go for walks. If you love sewing, go for sewing. If you love running a business, run a business. Like just keep doing what you enjoy doing.
Mm, beautiful advice, Joanne. And I can absolutely see how your background, you were obviously a very caring individual. So, being a registered nurse, being around people, nurturing and making sure people are healthy. And so this is a great absolutely great transitional component that you've added to impact people's lives. And so that's awesome. And I'm so glad that you took that plunge to do
Thank
so.
you. Thank you. I really feel that especially over the last, 10 years or so, as I discover something that I love. Like I love working with bowls and like sound bowls and singing bowls. And if you've ever had a sound bath, it's so relaxing and so amazing. So I not only did I want to experience that because it made me feel better, but I wanted to look at why does it make me feel better? What's the science behind it? How can I train in that and then bring that to my health and wellness clients? Because as I'm not sure that we mentioned that, Fab at 50 is sort of the social side. It's the community side of our organization. And then working with me more one-on-one is the health and wellness side, one-on-one or in the group coaching programs. And so just over the years, I love learning. I really love learning. So every year or so, I sign up for something new and I take a deep dive into learning that. And then I bring it together. And so I feel like there's a beautiful synergy of my abilities to organize events, because I've always just liked doing that. My nursing side of things that really understands that so often the medical system is so focused on after there's an issue, right? It's like going to the auto body shop. But if we talk about our cars, we take them to the auto body shop when they're broken down and beaten up. But beforehand, we should be learning our defensive driving, and we should be doing our oil changes and doing all the stuff that keeps us healthy. There's a difference between making us well again, if we can, and keeping ourselves healthy. And so I really want to focus more on what can we be doing to make ourselves healthy. And one of the single things that is so important to keep us healthy for longevity and mental health wellness is having a sense of community and belonging. And so that's what we do under the guise of a social group.
Oh, that's awesome. What a great community you've built. And so I want to go ahead and I believe it's fabulous at 50.com, correct?
Oh, thank you so much for sharing that. Absolutely. You can go there. They can sign up. I really encourage everyone that's listening, please go and sign up for the newsletter. Because it's not, I promise you, it's not where you're going to get it and you're going to get this whole big string of I'm selling you and marketing that. We do a newsletter. And so you'll see what events are coming up, whether they're in person or online. There's blogs, there's the podcast, there's health tips. So it really is rich with resources. And then when you're on the website, it's pretty bright and vibrant, and just go in there and see what resources might be able to help you.
Great. Yes, absolutely. Fabulousat50.com is where you absolutely can go and also get in contact with Joanne. And
Mhm.
so some of
Yeah,
the
there's a little chat down in the corner. Just so you know, I do not have a chat bot. I know
oh,
what they are. It's not going to be a robot talking to you. That will send a text message directly to me, and I will get
awesome.
back to you.
Oh, that's great. That's great. So that makes it very easy. You're
Mhm.
very easy to get a hold of. That's fantastic. So one of the things that that you do, so I'm glad you kind of put in there, you added the sound bowls in there. But something that I saw, I believe on your site was end of life doula.
So as an oncology nurse, I absolutely have done end of life care and palliative care and supported families in that process. Where you see end of life doula was a blog that I did recently to explain what is an end of life doula, and it goes hand in hand with a couple of the podcasts because I interviewed a woman that I know who is an end of life doula, sometimes known as a death doula, and they offer just incredible support to families. Basically, there's somebody that you can call in that's a professional that is skilled in supporting you through this process. When you say goodbye to a loved one, or, whether it's an aging parent or a family friend, whoever that is, or yourself, there's people that don't have family that are like, who's going to help me go through this process? And that's what they do, whether it's sitting with somebody or helping them create a legacy or just helping the family through the grieving process, basically. But that's what I love about being on the podcast. I have the most fascinating guests, just like you do.
Yes.
Yeah, I love, like, the people that you've had on the show are incredible. I just love what you're bringing to people that wouldn't otherwise have access to being able to have that wisdom from those people.
Well, thank you, Joanne. You are right that the joy of having something like this is really, I find it more of a joyful thing. I hope
Mhm.
my guests do too and enjoy it as well. But I definitely find benefit from it as well. So I do encourage, if you are thinking about doing a podcast, that you should jump in and do it because
It's
it is
fun.
amazing.
It's rewarding. I really enjoy it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and you learn so much. Yeah,
Tons. People are fascinating, right? And
very much.
that's what I love. Like, so the podcast, and you might be on it coming up soon. Like, maybe look for it in a week or so. I love talking to fascinating women, what they're doing. And yes, we talk about their business if they're in business, but I like to know the woman behind the story. How did you get there? What was your story? What led you there? What motivated you? And tapping into some of that wisdom. And we're all about, as I said, this season is all about changing the aging narrative.
Yeah.
And when we suggest changing their aging narrative, a lot of time, like, what do you think about? Right? We sometimes think about what society is reflecting back at us, but it's also about what's the narrative, what's the conversation or story in our own minds about what we can do and whether age matters. So a lot of the different conversations are around that, or simply having conversations that up until now have been a little hush hush. They're just things people skirt around. And one of them is about death and dying. Let's face it, by the time we make it to midlife, we have aging parents, likely, or parents that have passed, or friends, and we're the ones caring for those people. So let's have a conversation about it so that we're not going through these major life transitions or milestones alone. So whether it's menopause is a big one, we talk about all the menopause madness and the weight gain or the empty nest syndrome or all the other crazy things. So let's bring that into the realm of open conversation.
Well, I that's a great transition right now because I would say, why don't we talk about what menopause is and how do you get through it? Because I will tell you that a lot of my friends are going through it. I've been going through it, and it's a time of that you're like, oh my gosh, what's happening to my body
It's like
and
a
my
different
brain?
vessel. The year that I went into full menopause, and I'll explain what that means, I literally ballooned. And I felt like I was walking around in a vessel that I felt detached from because I didn't even know how to function in it, right? I didn't know how to dress it. I didn't know how to bend over and tie my shoes without groaning. It was not fun. But menopause, I think a lot of people know what it is, but they're sometimes don't know all the different terms. I call it the PPs of menopause. So we have pre-menopause, which is like literally meaning you're still a woman getting your period and you haven't even started into any signs. Perimenopause can be anything from a few months to years to like a decade before the full stopping of your cycle. And it's when instead of the natural rhythm of your hormones, they start going haywire. Let's just talk in very simple terms. They start going haywire. And so women will notice that their cycle, it might be 2 weeks one time and 2 months the next time, and it's all over the place. So these hormones can start to shift and change. And those changes then have big impact on us. So some women get hot flashes and some women get night sweats and other women start to feel really grumpy. And the reason I'm laughing when I say that is there's an author, a woman I know, that put out a book and it's called Murder on My Mind, because she literally felt like she was going crazy and she like kind of jokingly wanted to murder everyone around her. And she shares it so that women also go, okay, I'm not just going crazy. There's lots of things that impact it. And then menopause itself is that day when you have gone a full 12 months without a cycle, right? If you go 6 months and start again, ooh, you're counting all over again. Sorry, you need to. Once you go the 12 months, then you're considered in menopause, right? Often referred to as postmenopause. Like the years after that are postmenopause. But here's the fun. You can still have all those same symptoms lasting afterwards as well.
Oh boy.
Oh joy. And the other thing I just want to put a little push out there, because, being an oncology nurse, is once you've done your full 12 months of no cycle, if you get bleeding anytime after that, get yourself into a healthcare professional right away so that they can check you out, make sure that there's nothing going sideways. Okay, just my little public announcement there. How do you navigate this? Well, I have a different approach. There's many ways, and I really believe very much in a body, mind, spirit approach to everything. So on the body side of things, it's how are you moving your body? What are you doing to nourish your body? How are you moving it? What are you eating? How are you sleeping? Because those three can have a huge impact on how well you transition through menopause. There are women that go through and have no issues at all. Right? Then we look at the mind. What's your mindset around it? What are you telling yourself? Are you being kind to yourself with the way you speak to yourself? A lot of people are really, really nasty to themselves. They wouldn't be this nasty to a friend, right? So that's really important. And that's why I bring in different techniques on how to support women with this. So on the eating side of things, I lead women through something called metabolic balance. So it's an eating plan and it really helps balance out the hormones. And then, the mindset, the belief repatterning, like let's take a look at what is your subconscious telling you, right? Like what are you running as your operating system? We can reprogram that. We can tell kinder words to ourselves in a nutshell. And then on the spirit side, and I'm not talking so much on the religious side, I'm talking about your energy and your spirit and what are you doing to enliven yourself, right? And so when we take all of those, we can do some very natural ways of helping our cycle and helping us go through this. And then if that's not enough, but that's the first approach. But then if that's not enough, then there are ways of having very, safe talk to your healthcare professional of hormone replacements and things like that. But we can do so much just with getting our sleep and drinking enough water and eating healthy. There's certain foods you can eat that can help you, but stay away from the high sugars. And I hate to say it because most women are not going to want to hear this, but alcohol is not your friend during menopause. right? I love a glass of wine or a gin and tonic, but I went for several years where I really couldn't touch any alcohol at all because it just didn't like me at all.
Is it because your body's just not processing it very well? So
We
you
process alcohol differently.
got it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I literally have clients that I just challenge them. I go, just don't have any alcohol for a week or two. Within 3 days, they're going, oh my God, I'm not waking up 6 times in the middle of the night with sweats. Right. I just knew that if I was going to have some wine with dinner, I was going to wake up that night and have night sweats. So maybe just decide which night you're willing to go through that. But honestly, shifting what you're eating and cutting alcohol out, that will take away the majority of your symptoms.
Well, that's probably good to know. I've not ever been a big alcohol drinker because my body, even when I was young, didn't process it very well. But you're
Mhm.
right. It's and even as older, even just taking half of a glass, it's game over for me. So
Yeah, it makes a difference. But a lot of it is also, and I'm getting into like really into the health side of things, but stabilizing your insulin and sugars. What happens is women think, oh, my sugar level's fine. My doctor said my sugar level's fine. And I'm like, okay, but how much insulin did it take to keep your sugar level down? So what happens is we eat something that spikes our sugar levels and then we need insulin to keep it down. So I call it the parole officer. So we keep it down. But if we have lots and lots of sugar all the time and never give our pancreas a rest, then we need lots of insulin to keep it down. And when insulin is up, fat burn is off. So if you're trying to lose weight, you really need to focus on balancing, having adequate protein, lots and lots of fresh vegetables. And that is, I'm not saying cut carbs all together, but don't be having sugary pops. Cut out the direct sugary stuff and eat healthy, delicious foods and, get some support with that. It will make a difference. It is absolutely worth doing that. And then when you have a treat, when you have that delicious chocolate cake, which I love, you're having it as a treat. That maybe once a week, you're not eating donuts every single day
yeah.
because that will make a massive difference in how you go through it. Yeah. And I'm just going to throw in there, have a community of women and be willing to talk about it, even if you're embarrassed.
Which is why you should go to fabulousat50.com and join the community because there are some fabulous women like Joanne that are in there. So you're right. Having that support, I think, as the older we get, it becomes more and more important. The relationships,
We
you
need our
know,
girlfriends.
yeah, yeah. And I definitely have found that to be the truth. When I was younger, I was busy raising kids and working. And so I didn't value those relationships nearly
Yeah.
as good as I should have. But
You can rekindle them. Here's
yeah,
what's cool. I have girlfriends that honestly, for years, we were so, like you said, we were busy with our families, or this one girlfriend, she didn't have children, but she was busy with her career. And years went by where it'd be a Christmas card. That's about it. But now it's like, oh, we've just rekindled that wonderful friendship. And it's so meaningful because let's face it, our children grow up, they move out. Yes, they're very close to us. We love them. Husbands may come and go, you might go through a couple of them, but having really wonderful friendships. Oh, and this is the other thing that I notice that most women say, and this is meant to be an encouragement for the younger women that might be listening. Sometimes when you're younger, there's just an edgier side of women relationships. There's a little more competition. Sometimes there's not a friendliness, not always, but in certain circles. I find that women, as we get older, we get nicer.
mhm,
We recognize like, oh my God, I've been through, I'll bleep myself out. Um, And I recognize that you have too. So let's be kind to each other. Let's support each other. And if you're not in a community that is kind and supportive and you can be your authentic self, then leave that community and go find one because we are out there. There's lots of other communities out there that are kind and supportive and welcoming and encouraging. Yeah.
that's great advice because you're right. When we're younger, the relationships with women was a little more difficult, and there was a competitive side. And like
Mhm.
if you did well, some of the ladies might have been jealous, or they just sabotaged, or And it's kind of an interesting dynamic. But you're right, as I've gotten older, I value my girlfriends so much. And
Mhm.
yes, I've calmed down, they've calmed down.
Yeah.
Everybody is just in a better, like, life is too short. Let's
Yeah.
put that all behind us and let's move on, right?
Exactly. And here's the thing, if you can't find a community in your area that's like that, then you be the leader. You make it up. You just start a meetup group and say, "Hey, I want to meet for coffee, but you got to be nice when you come."
Yeah.
Right?
Only kind words, right?
Whatever it is that you want to do. Let's go for a hike. Let's go, and I'm not sure what people do. That's more my things. I'm going to do a drum circle or whatever it is that you want to do. Like, go ahead and be the leader. There's other women out there looking for you to be the leader.
You are just full of wisdom, Joanne. I'm so glad you are out there coaching and helping women along, because yes, that is very, very true. And I've counseled young women that as well, when they say, "Well, I don't get invited to things and I don't have any friends." It's like, well, how about you become the friend that you wish you had? Because that was something I had to
Yes.
learn. Why don't you become the friend that you wish you had? And why don't you start inviting people? You
Yeah.
start having events, you start, and lo and behold, you'll end up having friends that you end up having such a tight bond with, that it's
Yeah.
amazing. So you're
And
right.
they're really interesting people. Like, think of all the shows where it's like, I don't know, I feel like I'm not I think when you're younger, you're like, "Oh, I wanna be part of the in crowd." But, like,
Mhm.
what is that in crowd? Just go and be part of people that you are interested in and that are interested in you, and that there's some kind of reciprocal communication. But to share just I just wanna share an example. This past summer, so I have my Fab at 50 community. And then I personally attend a lot of business networking, like women's networking groups. And one of them said, "Hey, let's have a social party. Let's not do any networking specifically. And let's get together and let's collaborate." Well, it started off with 3 groups. We ended up with 7 women's groups, all just working together collaboratively. And all we did is we booked a venue during Stampede. So, like, Calgary, the whole city becomes one big stampede. And we had 7 different women's groups, and we had something like, I don't know, close to 200 women come to this venue and have dinner and visit and talking and music. And it was amazing because it wasn't like, well, this is my group's event or my group's event. It was like all of our group's events. And we just worked together, and there was no one person in charge. We just all collaboratively, I think by this age, it's kind of like, oh, I'll take care of that. Okay, I'm going to take care of this. And it's wonderful. And I just want to model that it is possible, because we so often hear the highlights of where there's discourse in the world. How about we start shining the light on where there is a lot of love and collaboration going on?
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, I agree. Way to lead the charge, Joanne.
Yay.
So you're leading by example. You're doing everything that you're advising other people to do. So that's wonderful.
As
And
best as I can.
yeah. And so some of the talk to us a little bit more. I'm glad we talked about you know, the menopause, going through menopause and what to do, because you actually gave some very, very good advice and tidbits. And obviously there's a lot more in depth. So
Oh,
if you
yeah.
guys want to know more, for sure get a hold of
We do
Joanne.
the whole podcast on this, right? We do whole courses on it. Yeah.
Absolutely. But you also offer other avenues. You talked about, I'd like for you to talk a little bit more about um, helping people to change their mindset. So
Mm.
basically, I guess, repatterning our
Yeah.
behaviors and thoughts.
So one of the things that I got introduced to was, how do we change our mindset? So think of it this way. We all hear be positive, think positive, change your mindset. But the reality is how, right? When we have that itty bitty nasty committee going on in our mind, or the broken record, it is really hard to just shift into I'm happy, right? And there's people out there that are going, oh, just say an affirmation, stand in front of the mirror and go, I'm happy. When you're not happy, you just have the little monkeys in your brain going, no, this is not what I feel. So I would never advise one of my clients to say the opposite of what they feel. It's more of a what can we say that shifts you from the draining side of, like from being drained to the other side of things where you're being uplifted? So it might be something where you're looking in the mirror and you're really down or sad, or something's really big going on in your life. And it's more looking and going, I affirming that I am greater than the experience I'm having. So understand, like moving that inch, like I am embracing something that's more positive, as opposed to just I am this. Because if you're not that, then nothing's ever going to shift in your mind. So I like to explain that, if you think of a computer, you have your operating system and then you have your software. You can't run new software on old operating system, right? So if you've come out of, say, a horrible relationship, and women, especially in midlife, when if they get divorced, and I have friends that they got divorced after 25 years of marriage. Like, that's outrageous. Now, that really plays with your mind. But they wouldn't be able to walk into a new relationship. Like myself, after 18 years of marriage, I couldn't get into a new, healthier relationship until I changed my operating system. And my operating system is that, what do we do just automatically? What are our thoughts? What are our beliefs? What are our attitudes to something? And is techniques that we use, very simple, to help sort of tell our mind what we want it to be knowing on an automatic basis. And so when we say repatterning, it's a bit like when you learn how to drive a car. Do you remember when you first learned how to drive a car? You're like, I'm looking in the mirror. I'm looking in this mirror. I'm looking at how fast I'm going. And it's all on a conscious level. Well, how many people now have you ever driven home and go, I don't even remember how I got home? It's all on autopilot. That is because your subconscious has already learned to know what to do automatically. So we can do that with our mind. So basically, our subconscious believes what our mind tells it. So if we start telling kinder thoughts in our mind on a conscious, intentional level, these automatically become our go-to reactions to things. And so it's a bit of a process. So I use that technique with my clients, but I also use it a bit within my Fab Soul Circle. So that's the gathering of the membership. And I like to weave it in wherever I can, or at a retreat, so that people can understand that they don't have to be stuck with the nasty thoughts they have in their mind. It's a very simple, super effective process to shift it.
Wow, that's great. And I love that you explained it so simply. I can't even say the word.
In a simplistic way.
Simplistic way, yes.
Yeah. Thank you. That's what I think my superpower is. Taking complex concepts and explaining it in a way that the light bulb goes off and it makes sense.
Yes, because you got so many out there, like you said, saying all these things, talking about how the neuroscience is, and then it gets to be a little like, oh.
Yeah, I know words like neuroplasticity gets thrown around. So let's just think of that. So when I was a child and younger, it was believed that your brain was what your brain was, and it just kind of started dying off, and you couldn't really change it. Sort of like you couldn't teach an old dog new tricks. Well, it's completely wrong. Think of the brain as, when they say neuroplasticity, think of, like, I don't know, plasticine or Play-Doh. It can be remodeled and rewired way more than we think. So think of someone that's had a stroke with correct therapy, because there's many different therapies that are involved. People can often reclaim, right? Like what they can do. There is like science miracles, as they say, where like this one woman, I think like she lost almost like half her brain, and literally through the right therapies was able to model it so that she gained functions back. So if we can do that after major traumatic events such as a stroke, we can certainly shift from having nasty thoughts to having supportive thoughts in very simple ways.
Yeah, I love that we have so much information in science now that it's showing these things.
Yeah.
I'm a Christian, and I know, in the Bible it talks about renewing your mind through being transformed by the renewal of your mind. And this is
Mhm.
exactly what it is. And there's
Exactly.
definitely steps. And so now the science basically backs up what the Bible has already said from the very beginning. And you're right. It's an amazing thing from the time you're born to the time you die. Your brain is always able and capable of changing. Phenomenal.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I heard somebody explain that. I don't know who to give credit to, but I heard someone explain it well when they were talking about your thought patterns. They're saying if you don't like that channel, like think of a radio, not only can you change the channel, you actually own the station. I was like, ooh. Now this was at a time when I had the broken record going all the time, right? Like it was really after my divorce. I had a couple years where it was challenging. I felt like the carpet had been ripped from under me, and the what ifs, or I should have this, and just all of this stuff that was draining me. And then now to go on the upside. So an example, I'll show you an example of sort of what helped me. Let's say at one point in time when I was raising my children, and I actually had chosen to be a stay-at-home mom. But when somebody asked me, what do you do? I sometimes got embarrassed that I was being a full-time stay-at-home mom. And I'd have to explain, well, I'm a nurse, but this happened, that, and like I'd be explaining all these different things. And it felt draining. And then I learned one day to go, well, why don't I just own my decision? So it's all about making a conscious choice. So I own my decision. If somebody asks, I go, oh, I've made a choice to be a stay at home mom. I didn't change anything I was physically doing, but my energy went up because I made a conscious choice. And so that's the issue, is that we do things all day long on autopilot. If we bring it to our consciousness again, so the same with midlife. What are you thinking? What is your narrative or story around midlife? Do you think you're dried up, has been, I'm done, sex life is over, everything's over, I'm getting flabby? And, like, what are you telling yourself? Or are you saying, this is my autumn. This is when I get to be my most vivid color. This is when I get to share my wisdom. This is when I can be my most powerful. This is when I can still have very meaningful, even more meaningful relationships. Which story are you telling yourself?
Awesome. Oh, Joanne, I'm so glad you came on today.
Thank
And you
you.
are a fabulous, fabulous woman. So I'm glad that you're helping others to be fabulous at 50 and beyond. It's
It
not even
is. We're
at
going to add
50.
that and beyond. I
Yeah.
didn't initially come up with the name. I inherited this and then took it to the next level. And yeah, I really believe in it. And I do encourage any of your listeners, like, the first step could be join the newsletter. But if you're ready to really connect with women one-on-one, not one-on-one, but live, like on Zoom calls, live, not necessarily in person, join our membership. Like, honestly, especially with the dollar change, it's like $20 a month Canadian, which is like, I don't know, $2 American or something like that. Not
Pretty close.
quite, but it
Pretty close.
really is. Think of it as a subscription to like Netflix or something,
Yeah.
where you get to join in with a group of women that are wonderful and welcoming, and we have really cool conversations.
And it's women, I take it from all over. It's not just
All
Canadian.
over. We have a
Yeah.
mix. Predominantly right now, there's more from Canada, but we have, literally in our greater community. I mean, there's women from Australia, New Zealand, and England, and Canada, and US probably are the main predominant countries. And yeah, we love our American cousins. So
Awesome.
yeah, it'd be wonderful to see more in our group.
For sure. So everybody absolutely check out fabulousat50.com. Joanne Newduck. She is fabulous for sure. Phenomenal, full of wisdom, full of insights. So absolutely get a hold of her, like her on social media, and yeah, just continue to support her. Even if
Thank you.
you're not ready to join, but even just spreading the word about Joanne. Those are the things that sometimes we think about,
Thank
oh,
you.
I don't have the money right now. It's not in the budget or whatever's going on. But sometimes just the simple act of just supporting, sharing things out, and letting people know is huge and really supporting an entrepreneur. So I just wanted to put that out there
I
that
love that. Well, the other thing to do is simply come and join our Facebook group, right? We have a Facebook page, which is like your bulletin board, but our Facebook group is Fabulous at 50 Sisterhood. So
Okay.
just come and be part of our sisterhood and get inspirational posts and share something, about yourself or ask a question in the group and know that everyone in the group is there just to support each other. I have to say, I have to put it out there that just there was a couple times over this last year that were a little challenging for me, and or other people, or somebody had lost a parent, and they put it just saying, asking for prayers for whatever it was. The amount of support that, people that don't even know each other are just like, I'm here for you. You're being thought of, and I'm putting you on the prayer chain or whatever it is. It's just beautiful. So I really encourage people to get involved if they're feeling any kind of pull to, and this aligns with your values, then please join us.
Awesome. Thank
Yay.
you again, Joanne. And yeah, I'm going to probably have to get into that group too, because it sounds
I think
pretty
so.
amazing. So
We'll let you in early. You can join the club early. Yeah.
thank you. All right. Well, we will say goodbye. And thank you again for being here,
Thank you
Joanne.
so much. It was such a great conversation.
Have a great day. Thank you, everybody, for joining us here on American Dreammakers. What a wonderful woman, wasn't she? So please be sure, if you're watching this even on the replay, please be sure to share this out, because she absolutely gave some great information out there that can help so many women. And so let's not keep it to ourselves, and let's share, share, share. So I want to say goodbye and have a wonderful, wonderful day. And we will see you next time.